Okay, good morning everyone. Talmud Beis. We are about 3 lines from the wide lines. We'll just read quickly to the 2 dots. Boi Rava. Chatas chalav sheshachta l'shem chatas detumas mikdash v'kachav mahu. What happens if you have a chatas you have to bring for chaylev, for eating chaylev, and you shachted it for a chatas for being tumas mikdash v'kachav? Talmud Beis, 3 lines from the wide lines. So we said yesterday that Rav said that if you have a chatas chaylev shota l'shem chatas dam, or l'shem chatas over chachavim, it's kshera, because one chatas for another is fine. But if you shakt it for a chatas, it's not really a chatas, like a nazir or a mitzorah, it's going to be possible because those are olos. Now we're saying that if you have a chatas chaylev that you shakt for a chatas tumas mikdash v'kachav, what's the story? Mi amrin an kares kemosa, o dilma ein kavua kemosa. Do we say that it's going to work because there's kares for both? Just like there's kares for eating chaylev, there's kares for going into the mikdash v'kachav when you're tameh. O dilma ein kavua kemosa. Or dilma, we would say that it's ein kavua kemosa, and therefore what? And therefore it would not be. What does it mean, ein kavua kemosa? So Rashi here says, where's Rashi? So on one hand, the chaylev, the chatas for a chaylev, and the chatas for tumas mikdash is the same because there's both kares. On the other end, it's different because the tumas mikdash v'kachav is not a set korban; it's a olev yored. Ravacha brei Rava masni kula lipsula. We're on the first wide line of Talmud Beis. Ravacha brei Rava says that all of them are possible, even a chatas chaylev. Everything is going to be possible. Chatas chaylev v'shem, chatas dam, and chatas avodas cham is also going to be possible. He argues with the last pshat. My time v'shachas ota lichatas l'shem osa chatas. It needs to be for that chatas. How did Rava have this question? That means that what? If you're going to tell me that what? If you're going to tell me that a chatas chaylev, that's the chatas dam, or if a chatas avodas cham is kshera, then you can ask me the question, what's the status of a chatas chaylev that you use for what? For tumas mikdash v'kachav. But if in general, the way you're saying it now, every single chatas that's used for something else is going to be pasul, so what was his question? That if you use a chatas of a dam, or a chatas of a chaylev, for a chatas of tumas mikdash v'kachav, what's the havamina that it would be okay? Says the Gemara, we're talking about a shinoi balim, not that you're using it for a different korban, but you have in mind a different baal. Amar Rava, what's the case? Chatas chaylev sheshachta al misha mechuyav chatas dam. Right, he's changing what we said above. It's a you have chatas chaylev that you shach for somebody who's chayav chatas dam, or chatas avodas kochavim, you shach it for somebody else. Not that you shach it for yourself for a different sin, you shach it for somebody else. In those cases, psula. Al misha mechuyav chatas nazir v'chatas mitzorah kshera. If you shach it for somebody else, again, because we said if you shach it for another animal, for another korban, it's going to be possible. But if you shacht it for somebody else that's chaya of a different korban, that's not necessarily going to ruin it. So amisha mechuyav chatas nazir v'chatas mitzorah kashera ubayin lahachi. Now the question becomes chatas chayil sheshachta amisha mechuyav chatas v'tumas mikdash v'kachav. Now the question is not if you shacht a chatas for yourself for tumas mikdash v'kachav. What happens if you shacht a chatas for somebody else who's chayav tumas mikdash v'kachav? Do you treat it as if you shachted it for somebody else that's chayav also a chatas dam or a chatas chaylev like you, in which case it'll be possible? Or do we treat it like you shachted it for somebody else that's chayiv a chatas nazir or a chatas mitzorah, in which case it'll be okay? There's one reason to say that it'll be like that and one reason to say not. On one hand, it's like a chatas chaylev that they're both chayiv kares. On the other hand, it's not like a chatas chaylev because the chatas tumas mikdash v'kachav is an olev yored and the chatas of the dam v'chaylev is not an olev yored, it's a set korban. That's where we ask, mi amrin and kares kemosa, dilma and kavo kemosa, teku tishbi yitaret, kushios ubaayos. That was the basis of the question. Okay, 2 dots. Zak the Gemara, Itmar. If you thought that was complicated, you ain't seen nothing yet. Itmar. Really have to pay attention over here. Shachta lishma lizrog dama shelo lishma. So we've been talking about where you shech something lo lishma. If you shech a korban shelo lishma, it's not going to work for that korban. It'll still be kshera except for, we say it a million times, a chatas and a korban pesach. But now we're going to make things even more complicated because now it's been too easy the first 9 blot. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say that you go ahead and you shecht an animal, and you're not shechting it shalol lishma. Right? That was the case we were dealing with. You shecht an animal shalol lishma. I have a chatas, I says I chatas, and I say l'shem yichu kucha brichu ola. No, that's already, we've established that. Now we want to know, when I shecht it as a chatas, I have in mind that it's a chatas. But while I'm shechting it, I know too much, so what do I do? Again, unclear exactly why people would do all of this. But
it's not a mistake.
What? It could be that it was a mistake. Yeah. It sounds like it was on purpose or not on purpose. Sounds like it was a mistake. So he goes ahead and he has in mind when he's shechting this animal for a chatas, he has in mind for a chatas or stam, but he has in mind that he's going to do the zrika for something else. Now you have to remember, we've said the whole time that the main avoda, especially by chatas, is the zrika, because the zrika is what gives the kapara. So the zrika is the main avodah, and we shouldn't forget that. So over here, you have in mind when you're shechting the chatas, either nothing, which we said would work, or you have in mind, I'm shechting l'shem yichu kucha brichu chatas. But for whatever reason, you're making a mistake, or let's say you're doing it stam, you're thinking about the zrika already. You start thinking about the zrika l'shem something else. You're thinking about how you're going to do it. You're going to be throwing it on the bottom versus the top, etc., as we'll see. So now you're shechting it for the right reason, but you have intention at the time of the shechita to do the zrika wrong. If you do the shechita wrong, doesn't work. If you do the zrika wrong, doesn't work. But does thinking about doing the zrika wrong at the time of the shechita, does that ruin it? You would think, of course not. Of course it does. Says the Gemara, Idmar shachta lishma lizrok dama shelo lishma. Rabbi Yochanan amar psula. Rish Lakish amar ksher. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, you ruined everything. You're Rabbi, you're telling me that when I shech the korban, and at the time of the shechita, I'm thinking about doing the zrika wrong, I ruined it? Yes, that's what I said. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan amar psula, why? Mechashvin me'avoda le'avoda, v'alfinan mi-machsheves pigol. We talk about a lot of, again, I say it a million times. You do Daf Yomi, it's nice if you know every single shakla v'tarya. Get down the main concepts. If you learn one main concept a day, you'll have a lot of main concepts after 365 times 7.5. You'll have 2,000, 3,000 main concepts. The main concept for today, or one of them, is pigol. What is pigol? Pigol means that, Rashi, Ein mechashvin me'avoda la'avoda, the bottom Rashi on the page, you went ahead and you shechted something, b'shelo lishmo de lo yafin lami pigol, dehasam ikar machshavas v'mabili de pigol zo. He sheyachsho ba'avoda zu, lasos avoda acheres min ha'echas ha'avodos, lahachil la'adam o lemizbeach chutz lizmano. Uzrika achilas mizbeachi. That's the key line in Rashi here. The key line is that pigol means that when I shecht it, I have in mind that I am going to do another one of the avodos at the wrong time or at the wrong place. That's what pigol is. In the wrong time or in the wrong place. Pashup shot is at the wrong time. We'll see. So if I have in mind that I'm going to do the avodah at the wrong time, I'm shechting it and saying I don't plan on eating it till 3 days from now, which is not allowed. It has to be eaten either that day in the night, etc. I plan on doing the zrika tomorrow. Not allowed. All the avodos need to be done on the same day. Furthermore, Rashi points out that when it comes to pigol, even if I say that I'm going to do something that's not one of the avodos, it's not shchita, kabbalah, holacha, zrika. Those are the 4 avodos, remember. But it's haktaras hachalavim. It's burning the fats. It's not one of the 4 avodos. Even if I have in mind that I'm going to do that at the wrong time, that's also going to ruin the korban. That's pigol. If I have the wrong intention at the time, that's pigol. So now we're going to say what? We're going to learn from pigol. Just like when I'm shechting the animal, if I say l'shem yichu kucha brichu achatas, which is perfectly fine, but I say I have in mind that I'm going to do the zrika, which he interestingly says means the achila. Achila is either I'm going to eat it at the wrong time, or the mizbeach is going to eat it at the wrong time. Zrika is the mizbeach eating it. If I have in mind that I'm going to do it at the wrong time, any of the avodos, it ruins it. So too over here, when I shecht an animal and I say I'm going to do the zrika shelo lishma, not at the wrong time, but not for the right reason, that's going to ruin it as well. Just like if I say I'm going to do the zrika at the wrong time, it ruins it. When I shecht and I say I'm going to do the zrika for the wrong reason, shelo lishma, that also ruins it. Comes along Rish Lakish Amar. What?
In the next day we have a morim from morning. That's also no wrong time.
What do you mean? The next day?
Next day of morning I come, I see morim stay from night.
Can you burn them, you're saying?
It
depends on the korban, but if it's no sir, then you can't. So he's saying that it has to, again, it depends. It's pigol. It's pigol. No, pigol's only pig. Yes, pigol is if you have intention to do it to burn it at the wrong time. That's the last lines in Rashi. Even if you have in mind to do one of the non-avodos at the wrong time, that's also pigol. That's a key. Good. That's what Rashi says. V'reish Lakish amar kshera. Lakish says it's kosher. Ein mechashvin me'avoda la'avoda v'lo yalfina mimachshavas pigol. We don't learn from pigol. By pigol, it's different. By pigol, you go ahead and you do it at the wrong time. Fine. You say you can do it at the wrong time, it's going to ruin it. But over here, when I have in mind that I'm going to do it shelo lishma, that's going to be different. Why? As Rashi points out, that's his svara. Rabbi Yochanan says you compare pigol to here, and Reish Lakish says it's not the same. Because Reish Lakish is saying that over here, you see that pigol is more machmir. Anytime you want to compare from something else, if you prove that the thing you're comparing from is more machmir, then you can say that's why it ruins it. Pigol ruins it because you see that pigol, even if you have in mind to do a non-avoda at the wrong time, it's going to ruin it. That's not what you're doing here. Here you're just having in mind to do this rika shelo lishma. That's one of the avodas. So it shouldn't ruin it, and therefore, even though by pigul it does ruin it to have in mind to do the avoda or the non-avoda at the wrong time, it will not ruin it if you have in mind at the time of the shechita to do this rika shelo lishma.
If you think about hockey scores, that doesn't.
So no, that's like stam. Hockey scores is like stam. For us, no, hockey scores is like stam. It's dafka. We said you have to think about the wrong thing. For us, do l'tamayu to itmar hashochet es habehema manat lizrok dam lavodas kochavim ulahaktir chav lavodas kochavim. Rabbi Yochanan amar asur mechashim avoda lavoda v'yafinan chutz mipnim. Reish Lakish amar muteres a mechashim avoda lavoda v'yafunan chutz mipnim. Now we take it to the next step. We have another machlokes. You have the same machlokes, but now not that you had intention during the shechita to do this rika shelo lishma. You have intention during the shechita to do this rika for avodas kochavim. And over there they say the same thing. Reish Lakish says it's okay. Rabbi Yochanan says it's pasul. Rabbi Yochanan says it's pasul because just like by pigul. And over here, what's the difference? Yalfinan chutz mifnim. Avodah zara is more of a chiddush. Because to say that we're going to ruin it when I have in mind to do this rika shelo lishma, that's one level. To say that I'm even going to ruin it when I have in mind to do this rika for avodas kochavim, which is taking place where? Outside of the Beis HaMikdash. That's what chutz means. Pnim is pigul. Pigul happens inside the Beis HaMikdash. Shelo lishma happens inside the Beis HaMikdash. Chutz, avodas kochavim, is that I have in mind during the shechita to do something outside of the Beis HaMikdash for avodas kochavim. To say that that's going to ruin it is an even bigger chiddush than to say that I'm going to ruin it for doing something inside of the Beis HaMikdash. So not only are we going to learn from pigul, we're going to learn from pigul chutz mipnim. And Reish Lakish says it's mutter, we don't learn chutz mipnim. So why do you need both? And this will explain it, and this will really help you understand it. V'yashmin ha b'ha kama Rabbi Yochanan aval b'hahi ema modi leila Reish Lakish. One can argue, why did it need to tell me Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish's opinions by both a case of having in mind the zrika shelo lishma again? Don't forget, this is when you're shechting the animal. Having in mind the shechita, everybody agrees. At the time that you do the shechita, if you have in mind to eat it outside of the right time, the right place, etc., avoid outside the right time, for sure pigul. Nothing to talk about. That's pigul. You keep looking at me about the wrong place. Wrong time, wrong place. Just take it for granted. Wrong time, wrong place, pigul. That's pigul. Now we're going to go ahead, and now we're going to assume. So pigul, everybody agrees. Now the question is, what happens if you have in mind shelo lishma, to do this rika shelo lishma, or you have in mind to do this rika for avodas kochavim? So one might have argued that maybe when Rabbi Yochanan says it's aser, that's dafka when you have in mind to do this rika shelo lishma. But maybe he would agree that if you have in mind to do this Rika Avodas Kochavim, which is going to take place outside of the Beis HaMikdash, that's not as big of a deal. Yes, Avodas Kochavim is a big deal, but you're not actually doing this Rika. You're just having in mind now to do this Rika for Avodas Kochavim. Since that's something that would have taken place outside the Beis HaMikdash, it's not such a big deal. It's not going to ruin your Shechita. Kamash Malan, even that is going to ruin the Shechita. V'yashminan baha amar Reish Lakish aval pnim mipnim ema modi leila Rabbi Yochanan. And if you have the other way, and you only tell me what? And you only tell me by Avodas Kochavim, from Reish Lakish that it doesn't ruin it if you have in mind when you're doing the shechita that you're going to do this rika for avodas kochavim. You might say he only says it's okay because avodas kochavim anyway is taking place outside the Beis HaMikdash. But he would agree that if you go ahead at the time of the shechita and you have in mind that that you're going to do this rika inside of the Beis HaMikdash shelo lishma, maybe that would ruin it. Says the Gemara, no. Those are the two tzadim that we need to tell me both cases because each one would have a reason to assume that the guy would not agree in the other case. Therefore, therefore it tells me that they agree across the board, whether it's inside of the Beis HaMikdash, whether it's outside of the Beis HaMikdash, no matter what, they all agree across the board with their opinion that if at the time you shach the korban, not only will you ruin it with pigul, you'll ruin it also if you think, again, according to Rabbi Yochanan, you ruin it if you think that I'm going to do the zrika shalol lishma, or I'm going to do the zrika la'avodas kochavim, and according to Reish Lakish, I will not ruin it, even if I say I'm going to do the zrika shalol lishma, it will not ruin it, and for sure if I say I'm going to do the zrika l'shem avodas kochavim. So they're very consistent across the board.
The blood, you're going to take this blood and go to an idol. You're not talking about throwing it on the base and thinking about it. It's actually taking the blood right out of it.
Again, you're not actually doing it. You're just at the time of the shechita, you're thinking that I'm going to take this blood and I'm going to find an idol and I'm going to throw it on the idol. And that doesn't ruin it, or it does ruin it. So they're consistent across the board. So the one who says it's bad, it's going to ruin it, it's going to say it's going to ruin it by pigul, by avodah zarah, by shalol lishma. And the one who says it's not going to ruin it, is going to say it's going to ruin it by a pigul. If you think about doing the avodah outside of the allotted time, let's say, outside of the time, thinking about doing avodah or even non-avodah outside the allotted time, it's going to ruin it. But he would say that if it's shalol lishma, you have in mind to do shalol lishma, or to do it l'shem avodas kochavim, it will not ruin the korban. Each one is going to bring a proof for somebody. Rabbi Yirmiyah l'siyua Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yirmiyah is going to bring a proof for Rabbi Yochanan that if you go ahead, and again, we're talking about shalol lishma, we just brought in avodah zarah parenthetically. But now if he's going to bring a proof for Rabbi Yochanan that if you go ahead and you shacht an animal, and at the time you have in mind that you're going to do the zrika for shalol lishma, not for this animal, it ruins it. Where do you see this? The proof is, he brings a kal v'chomer. Uma b'makom she'im amar hareini shochet chutz lizmano shehu kasher shachto amenat lizrok damo chutz lizmano pasol makom she'im amar hareini shochet shelo lishmo pasol shachto amenat lizrok damo shelo lishmo nedin sheyeh pasol. Fascinating. What does this mean? This is saying that what? If I go ahead and I have in mind that hareini shochet chutz lizmano, what happens if I take a korban, and as I'm shachting it at the right time, I'm shachting a korban chatas at the right time, and I say, Hareini muchan u'mezuman, to shach this korban at the wrong time.
That is right.
Wrong time? Is it problem or not a problem? No problem, because it's ridiculous. You're not saying anything. Lamaisa, your action is showing me that right now I'm doing it at the right time. Second of all, that's not pigul, because we're not talking about doing any of the other avodas at the wrong time. I'm doing it right now. So when I shacht an animal, and I say I'm going to shacht it, I'm shachting it on minas to shacht it at the wrong time, that's ridiculous. And nevertheless, if I shacht an animal in order to do the zrika at the wrong time, does it ruin it? Yes, that's pigul. Therefore, we know what? If I shacht an animal, and at the time that I'm shachting it, I do it shalol lishma, do I ruin it? Yes, I ruin it, at least for the chatas and the pesach, as we'll see. Yes, I ruin it. Kal v'chomer, if I go ahead and shacht it with the intention to do this rika shalol lishma, it'll ruin it. If when I shacht it, actually chutz lizmano, I don't ruin it, and nevertheless I ruin it by thinking that the zrika will be at the wrong time, it ruins it. Kal v'chomer, if at the case where I actually ruin it during the shechita, which is when I have in mind that I'm doing it what? That I'm doing it for shalol lishma. Kal v'chomer, when I go ahead and I have in mind that I'm going to do this rika shalol lishma, I ruin it. Sounds like a nice argument. Maskela Rav Bar Ilai, no. Ma chutz lizmano shekain kares. You can't make that comparison, because again, if you're going to make a kal v'chomer, the kal here being what? The kal here being pigul, and the chomer being shalol lishma, you can't make that kal v'chomer, because it's actually a chumrah by the kal, which is what? That if you go ahead and you in fact shacht an animal with the intention to go ahead and do the zrika outside of the time, which is pigul, if you eat that animal now, another concept for today, there's a million of them. If you eat pigul, what's the chiyuv? Chiyuv kares. As opposed to, if I go ahead and I shacht an animal with the intent to throw the dam when shalol lishma, even though I ruin my animal now, if I eat that animal, I don't get kares. So the fact that by that animal, the fact that it's going to ruin it over there, doesn't necessarily show that shalol lishma is going to ruin it over here. Says the Gemara, Elam Arava Bar Ilai. Because again, if I shach something shalol lishma, it doesn't necessarily ruin it. Elam Arava Bar Ilai Hachikamar. This is the kal v'chomer. So throw that out, forget about it. Get your concept and now forget about it. Uma makom she'im amar hareini shochet chutz lemikomo. Hareini shochet chutz lemekamo. If in that case where I say I am shechting it outside of its place, shehu kasher, because it's ridiculous. You're shechting it right now, and you say Hareini muchan mezuman to shecht it outside its place. What are you talking about? You're shechting it in its place right now. What you're saying is narishkeit. It's as if I'm saying Hareini muchan mezuman blah 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 blah. And it's not going to ruin anything. Shachto amenat lizrog damo chutz lemekomo pasol. If I shacht it, amenas to throw the dam outside of its makom, its pasol. Makom shimama areni shochet shelo lishmo. A place where I say that I'm shachting it shelo lishmo, which I know shehu pasol. Shachto amenat lizrog damo shelo lishmo eno din sheye pasol. So now we're bringing the same kal vachomer, but it's not a kal vachomer from shachting it outside of its zman. It's a kal vachomer from shachting it outside of its place. What's the kal vachomer shechting it outside of its place? Rashi, right there, 5 lines on the right, up. Shelo chishav lo al achila, lo al azrika. Elam areini shochet chutz lemekomo kasher dehachazina debemekomo shachto ve'od debachilas adam mizbeach talach rachmana lechutz lemekomo vechutz lizmano drimi machoya chel yafina chutz lemekomo vechutz lizgomo mehai kar lekaman. There's your Rashi. Okay. Tell it him later. There's your Rashi. Hareini shokto chutz lemekomo. This is the Rashi that tells us that chutz lemekomo is the same as chutz lizmano by pigul. So pigul is not only chutz lizmano, pigul is chutz lemekomo as well. You see that Rashi? Says the Gemara, therefore, what's the kal vachomer? If in a case where I shecht it chutz lemekomo, not that I'm actually doing the shechita chutz lemekomo, I'm having in mind to do a chutz lemekomo, it works, and nevertheless, if I have in mind to do the zrika chutz lemekomo in the wrong place, it's going to ruin it. Because that would be pigul, kal vachomer, when I actually shecht it shelo lishma, which is going to be a problem. Kal vachomer, if I have in mind to do this rika shelo lishma, is going to be a problem as well. How do we get rid of it? If we find a chumrah in the kal, if we find a chumrah in the chutz lemekomo. Maskela Ravashi, ma chutz lemekomo, there's a chumrah there. Shekei noeg bechol azvachim. Every single zevach has an isser of what? Of throwing the dam chutz lemekomo. Tomar b'shelo lishma she'ena noeg ela b'pesa v'chatas. We know that by shelo lishma, it only ruins 2 korbanos, as we've said a million times, the korban pasach and the korban chatas. So there's actually a chumrah by shelo b'mekomo, because that can ruin pigul by any zevach. Shelo lishma only ruins a pesach and a chatas. If there's a chumrah by the kal, then you can't make a kal vachomer from the kal to the chomer, because the kal is not really kal, it's also chomer. Says the Gemara, Elam Ravashi, we still don't have a proof again. What are you trying to prove? We're trying to prove Rabbi Yochanan's opinion that if you have in mind during the shechita to do the zrika shelo lishma, you're going to ruin it. So Elam Ravashi, what's the proof? Hachi kamar uma b'makom she'im amar. And this is we're gonna keep this one. We tried to bring a kal vachomer from shochet chutz lizmano and chutz lemekomo. Those two are pigul. And we don't compare it to pigul because it's kares, and also we don't compare it to chutz lemekomo because that's all zvachim. Uma b'makom she'imam hareini shochet l'shem ploni. What are you doing now? You're having in mind to shech the animal for somebody else. So now when I go ahead and I hareini shochet l'shem ploni shehu kasher, we know that what? We said that if you shech something for somebody else, is it kasher or pasol? Kasher. It's only pasol when you do the zrika for somebody else. So when I shech something l'shem yichud for your chatas, for your sin that you did yesterday, so l'maisa, what do? We have in mind it's actually going to be kosher, and nevertheless, if when I shecht it, I have in mind that I'm going to throw the dam for your chet that you did yesterday, I'm actually going to ruin the shechita. Lizrok damo l'shem ploni pasol. So now makom shimam areini shochet shelo lishman. When I actually do the shechita shelo lishman shehu pasol, if I shachto almanal lizrok damo shelo lishman eno din sheyeh pasol, that's the kal vachomer that you need to remember. Again, if I go ahead and I say hareini shochet l'shem ploni, if I go ahead and I shecht an animal for you, it still doesn't ruin my animal, because the shechita is not the main part of the animal. Nevertheless, if I shecht an animal and at the time of the shechita I think that I'm going to do the zrika for you, it ruins it. Kal vachomer, if at the time that I shecht it ruins it. What's that case? When I shecht it shelo lishma, then for sure when I have in mind during the shechita that I'm going to do the zrika shelo lishma, it ruins it. And over here you have no kasha. You can't say that the case of Zrika shelo, you can't say that the case of Zrika l'shem ploni is different because of kares, not true. You can't say shekei noeg b'chol azvachim, you can't reject it, and therefore you have this kal vachomer that if you do the shechita, and at the time of the shechita you have intention that the Zrika will be shelo lishma, you actually go ahead and you ruin the korban. That's Rabbi Yochanan's proof. No question. 2 hard for questions. Yeah. Understood. Yeah.
But it's two different things. One is for somebody else, and now it's just for different korban.
It doesn't matter. The kal vachomer is the same. If I shechted it for somebody else, it's kosher. And nevertheless, if I have in mind to do the zrika for that very thing, it'll be pasul. Shows that zrika is more chamer than, that's all we care about. Zrika is more chamer than the shchita. Then if when the shchita is done shalol lishma, we're going to say pasul. For sure, when you have in mind for the zrika, shalol lishma for sure. It's just a din that thinking about the zrika during the shchita is more chamer than the shchita itself. So if I can bring it to my case now, where I'm thinking about the zrika shalol lishma during the shchita, so then for sure I'm going to go ahead kal vachomer and say it's going to ruin it as well. That's the point. Yes, it doesn't matter different people, different this. It's still a matter of zrika versus shchita. Zak the Gemara. Now we have the other side. So that's good. Now we have Rabbi Ilah l'sira l'Reish Lakish. Now Rabbi Ilah is going to bring a proof for Reish Lakish. And he's going to bring a proof that it's actually not going to be a problem when you go ahead and you do the zrika or you do the shchita and you have in mind the zrika should be shalol lishma, it'll actually be okay. What's the proof? Lo tomar bezrika v'tisi mikal v'chomer mibene mishchita v'kabal. This is even more complicated. So what do you have over here? The Torah tells us that the zrika needs to be done lishma. Torah tells that. We've already learned that. The zrika, the throwing on the mizbeach, needs to be done lishma. So now the question becomes, why did you need to tell me in the Torah that the zrika needs to be done lishma? I could have learned a kal vachomer from shchita v'kabbalah, that if they need to be done lishma, then zrika for sure needs to be done lishma. Why? Rashi says, shchita, can it be done by a regular person? Yes. A zar can do shchita. Zrika, can it be done by a regular person? No. If the shchita, which can be done by a regular person, needs lishma, so then for sure the zrika, which can't be done by a regular person, for sure needs the lishma. And if you go ahead and you say, well, how can you compare to shchita? Because as we said, shchita has a chumrah. What shchita is chumrah? That if you shech for somebody who can't eat it on Pesach, he's not going to be able to eat the korban Pesach, it ruins it. Kabbalah mochiach, tzara shava shaban, etc. So between shchita and Kabbalah, really using, again, Kabbalah just saves the kasha you would have. But if I ask you to remember the klal, what's the klal we're learning here? That if shchita can be done by anybody, and yet if you do it shalol lishma, it ruins it. Gemara is going to ask in a second, that's not always true. It's only when it's for Korban Pesach or for Chatas. But in general, Shchita, which is done Shalol Lishma, ruins it, even though Shchita can be done by anybody. Kal Vachomer, the Zrika, which needs to be done by a Kohen, which is obviously on a higher level, if you do Shalol Lishma, for sure it's going to ruin it. So over here, what do you need a pasuk to tell me that the Zrika needs to be done Shalol Lishma? Or that it needs to be done Lishma? Says the Gemara, so why did the Torah tell us that the zrika needs to be done lishma? Not tell me that the zrika needs to be done lishma. We already know that. Lomar de'ein mechashem me'avoda la'avoda, as Rashi explains. To teach me that the zrika needs to be done lishma, and only if the zrika is not done lishma will it ruin it. But if I go ahead and I have in mind during the shchita that I'm not going to do the zrika lishma, it doesn't ruin it. It's dafka when the zrika is done shalol lishma will it ruin it. But if I think about doing the zrika shalol lishma, but I don't actually do the zrika shalol lishma, it won't ruin it. That's his chiddush. Says the Gemara, Maskela Rapapa, V'dilma demechashen me'avoda le'avoda. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe the fact that the Torah tells me that the zrika needs to be done lishma is not teaching me like you're saying that dafka the zrika needs to be done lishma. But if I have in mind that the zrika is shalol lishma at the time of the shchita, it won't ruin it. Maybe it's dafka telling me that not only does the zrika need to be done lishma, but even at the time of the shchita, I need to think about doing the zrika lishma. Says the Gemara, Im kain lishto kramine v'tisei mekal vachomer d'Ravashi. No. If that was true, that you wanted to teach me from the pasuk, from the fact that the pasuk comes and says the zrika needs to be done lishma. If you wanted me to learn from there that it's going out of its way to tell me the zrika needs to be done lishma, to teach me that not only does the zrika need to be done lishma, but at the time of the shchita you have to think about the zrika being done lishma. Then just don't say anything. Because first of all, then you should just leave out the pasuk at all. Because what? How would I know that I need to do the zrika lishma from shchita? How would I know that even during the time of the shchita, I need to think about doing the zrika lishma from the kal vachomer of Rav Ashi, which said hareini shoche l'shum ploni needs to be have in mind, right? The kal vachomer that we just gave. The fact that we don't use that kal vachomer, the fact that the Torah goes out of its way and says what? That the zrika needs to be done lishma, even though we could have learned it from this kal vachomer, even though we could have learned it from that kal vachomer. The fact that it goes out of its way says Reish Lakish, it's going out of its way to tell you that only if the zrika is done shalol lishma will it ruin it. But if I go ahead and during the shchita I think about doing the zrika shalol lishma, it will not ruin it. That's what he says. V'idach parachachin. The other one will say, what are you talking about? Ma lahanach she'ekein te'uno safon v'yeshtan bechatos hapnimios. How can I go ahead? The basis of your whole argument is that the Torah is not needed to tell us this idea, because we could have learned the Zrika from the what? From the Shechita and the Kabbalah. You can't compare the Zrika to the Shechita and the Kabbalah. Why not? Because we know that the Shechita and Kabbalah are not the Kals over there. Yes, they don't need a Kohen to do it, a Zar can do it, but they also have a Chumrah to them. That the Shechita and the Zrika, the Shechita and the Kabbalah need to be done in the northern part of the Beis HaMikdash. The Shechita and the Kabbalah are only by Chatas Pnimios, as opposed to the Zrika, which doesn't have to be done in the Tzafon, the holiest part, and it's done even for the lesser, lower level of Korbanos. So if you have a Chumrah by the Shechita, then you have to tell me what? If you have a Chomer by the Shechita, I can't learn a Kava Chomer from Shechita to Zvicha, and then I'm stuck. V'idach, says the Gemara, no, Hashta Mia B'Shlamim Kayamin. No, what are you talking about? You're right, that is true, but we're talking about Shlamim. We're talking about shlamim over here, and even by shlamim, we're learning that what? That if it's done shalol lishma, it's going to be a problem. Look at Rashi, 5 lines down on the right. Hashta miya b'shlamim kaiminan, di b'shlamim ksiva machshava shalol lishmo, hilkach matzi lemelav zrika mishchita v'kabala, v'leka lemifrach tzafon, de shlamim lo ba'it tzafon, v'lisnu b'pnamios. You're right. To learn from regular shchita of a regular chatas, regular shchita, that's going to be a problem. You can't learn from it because shchita has a chumrah. But shchita of a shlamim doesn't have a chumrah. Because shchita of a shlamim doesn't have to be done in a tzafon. Shchita of a shlamim is done even on not chatas pnimios. And therefore what? If you see that a shlamim, even when it's not a chatas pnimios, and even when it's not what? And even when it's not done in the tzafon, nevertheless it needs to be lishma. Kavachomer, Zrika in general, needs to be done lishma. That's what the Gemara says. And therefore what? Therefore it comes out that again, how do you know the two opinions? Again, I'll just read the Idmar. Idmar is just another brisa. Idmar shachta lishma, lizo tama shlo lishma. Rav Nachman amar psula, which is like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabba amar ksher, v'hada be Rabba legabi Rav Nachman, mikal v'chomer Rashi. And then Rabba went back and agreed with Rav Nachman. But again, what we've done today so far is you have a machlokes. If I do the shechita, and at the time of the shechita, I think about doing the zrika shalol lishma, Rabbi Yochanan will say I ruined it, and Reish Lakish will say I didn't ruin it. Rabbi Yochanan will say I ruined it, kal vachomer, from the case of what? Hareini shochet l'shem ploni, that if I'm shochet l'shem ploni, it's kosher. Nevertheless, if I have in mind when I'm shechting it, that I'm going to do this zrika l'shem ploni, it's pasul. So for sure, when I'm hareini shochet shalol lishma, I ruin it. For sure, when I have shochet that I'm going to do this zrika shalol lishma, I'm going to ruin it. That's the kal vachomer that he brings. That's why he says asura. And Reish Lakish brings a different kal vachomer, and therefore it says it's mutter, that if what? He says it's mutter, if by the case of that, because it didn't have to tell me Zrika at all, Zrika I would have known anyway from a Kal Vachomer, from Shechita, because Shechita can be done by a Zar, so for sure, Shechita, which needs to be Lishma, even though it can be done by a Zar, for sure, Zrika, which can be done by a Zar, needs to be Lishma. Why does the Torah go out of its way to tell me that Zrika needs to be done Lishma? To tell me that only the actual Zrika needs to be done Lishma, and not, it's not going to be a problem if you have in mind Shalol Lishma, only if you do the actual Zrika Shalol Lishma, is it going to ruin it. Okay, 10 more minutes. 2 dots. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Af Es HaAsham. Rabbi Eliezer says that even the Asham needs to be Lishma. And we're going to see over here, Tana Rabbi Eliezer. This is, okay, a little bit more complicated. Tanya Amar Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says, Chatas ba'al chet ve'asham ba'al chet. I just like to tell you what's coming. A chatas comes for a chet, and an asham comes for a chet. Ma chatas shalol lishma psula, af asham shalol lishma pasal. Now we're finished talking about doing the zrika shalol lishma, thinking about the zrika shalol lishma. Now we're talking about an asham. Does a korban asham have to be done lishma? Now we know that a korban asham is a korban chatas. It's similar to korban chatas, but it's brought for certain very specific sins. When you do on Yomim Noraim and you go like this, Achet, that we need an Asham, so you have a whole list in the art school of the things. Nedarim, things like that. So the question now becomes, what's the story of an Asham? We know a Chatas needs to be done Lishma and a Korban Pesach needs to be done Lishma. What's the status of an Asham? So it comes along Rabbi Eliezer and says, just like a Chatas needs to be done Lishma, an Asham needs to be done Lishma. How do we know that? Because a Chatas comes for sins and an Asham comes for sins. If one that comes for sins needs to be done Lishma, then the Asham which comes for sins also needs to be done Lishma. Amar lo Rabbi Yoshua lo, what are you talking about? No, you can't compare a chatas to an asham. A chatas is more machmir than asham. This is not a kal vachomer. This is just, if it's by this, then it's by this. It's not a kal vachomer, but if it's by a chatas, it's by an asham too. Unless you could tell me that there's a reason why the chatas needs to be done lishma. If you show me that there's a certain chumrah by a chatas, similar to ruining a kal vachomer, it'll ruin this comparison. If I show that there's a reason why a chatas should need lishma that doesn't apply to asham, then I can tell you that just because a chatas needs lishma doesn't mean that an asham needs lishma. So he says back to him, no, a chatas needs lishma, you're right, I agree to that. But an asham doesn't need lishma because there's a special reason why a chatas needs lishma. A chatas needs lishma because the dama is lamala. We see that when you throw the dam on the mizbeach, so there's a red line across the middle of the mizbeach. Most things you throw underneath the red line. That's an important klal. The chud hasikra. This, the chatas, you throw over the red line. So says Rabbi Yeshua back to him, the fact that the chatas needs a shma, we see that in general the chatas is more machmer. It needs to be thrown over the line of the mizbeach, the blood. But an asham which is not thrown over the line of the mizbeach would not in fact need lishma. It wouldn't ruin it if you shechted shelo lishma. Amr Rabbi Eliezer Pesach yochiach. What are you talking about? Korban Pesach disproves this. Shadamo lamata v'shachta shelo lishma pasol. You can't tell me that because a Pesach will tell me the other way. Pesach is done underneath the line, and yet we know that what? We know that it has to be shechted lishma. So don't tell me that an asham we can't prove anything from a chatas because a chatas is done above the line. Being above the line doesn't mean anything. Even a korbanos that are below the line also need lishma, and therefore lamaiseh from a korban pesach and from the korban pesach and chatas together, we see that what? We see that an asham would in fact need to be lishma. Says Amar Lo Rabbi Yoshua, Ma'ala Pesach Shekein Zmano Kavu. It must have been interesting to hear them have this conversation. What are you talking about Korban Pesach? You can't bring in Korban Pesach to the discussion. Korban Pesach has a set time. Chatas and Asham have no set time. You don't have to bring it at a specific time. You should bring it as soon as possible to get a thing. That's why maybe Korban Pesach. So now one can argue what? Korban Pesach has a chumrah that it needs to be brought at a specific time. That's why it needs to be lishma. Chatas has a chumrah that what? The blood is thrown above the mizbeach. That's why it has to be brought lishma. But asham, which has neither that nor that, it doesn't have a set time, nor does the asham have what? Nor is it thrown above the mizbeach, above the line. Maybe there it doesn't need to be lishma. That would be his argument. Amar lo, chatas tochiach. He says no, but if you take Pesach and chatas together, he doesn't say it's tzad shava, as the Gemara seems to imply, but if you take Pesach and chatas together, then you're fine. Because between Pesach, which is lishma, but under the line, and chatas, which is lishma, but over the line. Now I basically covered everything. I've covered above the line and below the line, and both of them have to be lishma. Therefore, I can compare to asham that if it's like since an asham is like a chatas, that it's for a sin. So enachanami, it needs to be lishma. Amar lo Rabbi Yoshua chozreini chalila. Rabbi Yoshua says, "Good try. I'm going to go around in circles with you. I'm not listening to you, and I'm done having this conversation." Says the Gemara. So the first thing is that Rabbi Eliezer says an asham needs to be lishma, just like a chatas needs to be lishma. And then he comes along and says, I have not only a svara, I actually have a gzerat shava that shows that an asham needs to be lishma. I have similar words by a chatas and an asham, which shows that the asham needs to be lishma. What's that? V'dono dinacher. Chatas nemar bar hi b'shchita, hi lishma kshera shelo lishma psula. It says the word he by a chatas, and therefore we see that the shchita, by where it talks about a shchita for a chatas, it says it has to be he lishma kshera shelo lishma psula. So he learns that it's only kosher if you do a lishma. So to Pesach nemar ba hu b'zvicha, it says the word hu by the korban Pesach, hu lishmo kosher shelo lishmo pasol. Baruch Hashem, af ashan nemar ba hu. By asham it also says the word hu lishmo kosher shelo lishmo pasol. So I found you gzera shava, take that. You have who, he, whatever, they're all the same, and therefore, just like those two need to be lishma, the korban asham needs to be lishma as well. I'm Rabbi Yeshua, good try, but I'm smarter than you think. Chatas nemar bahi b'shchita, he lishma k'sher shelo lishma psula. Pesach nemar bahu b'zvicha, hu lishma kasher shelo lishma pasol. Aval asham lo nemar bahu el la'achar taras morin, v'hu atzma shelo hukture morin kasher. You tried to pull a quick one on me, but not the same. Yes, when it says the word who or he, that means it needs to be dafka lishma. But by a chatas, it says the word he when it's talking about the shchita. By a Pesach, it says the word who when it's talking about the shchita. They have to be lishma. So you want to prove that in asham it says the word who, so therefore it shows it has to be done lishma as well. Look at the pasuk, man. When it talks about who by asham, it's not by the shchita. It's talking about the haktaras emurin, the burning of the emurin. And you can't tell me that the word who over there is telling me that in the haktaras emurin needs to be lishma. You know why? Because I'll tell you a secret. The halacha is that if you don't do the haktaras emurin at all, if you don't burn the extra bones and stuff, you didn't do anything wrong. You did something wrong, but you don't lose the mitzvah. So if you're telling me that if you don't burn it at all, it doesn't ruin the korban, you can't come tell me that who teaches me that if you don't burn it, lishma, you're going to ruin the mitzvah. So says the Gemara, basically he's saying the hu is not coming by the shechita. You're trying to prove that an asham needs to be shechted lishma. The word hu by the asham doesn't come by the shechita. Therefore, you can't prove from the word hu or he by a chatas and a pesach, which need to be done lishma by the shechita. You can't prove it to the asham because the word hu or he doesn't come by the shechita.
I thought the amurim was the shok and the.
It's the leftover. It's
the
the.
The coin with the stand around and show. And
That's the tnufa chazay, right? That's called the tnufa.
Shok, yeah.
Right.
That's not the amurim.
No, this is talking about burning. This is talking about burning the extra parts. So the extra parts. So again, it says the word "hu" by burning the extra parts, which shows that that needs to be done lishma. But it can't be that that's the lesson. It must be teaching something else because you don't even have to burn the yemurin if you don't. I mean, you should, but if you don't ruin it. Therefore, if you don't do a lishma, it doesn't ruin it either. But the bottom line is that you want to bring a proof to the asham, but the hu by the asham is not talking about the shechita. Therefore, you have no proof. Says the Gemara, Amalo Rabbi Eliezer. So Rabbi Eliezer says, "You're right. Okay, I'm stuck. You gave me a hard time, but I'll give you the bottom line. Harei omer kechatas kasham." You can't argue with this one. It says in the pasuk, kechatas kasham. Ma chata shelo lishmo pasol, af asham shelo lishmo pasol. Bottom line is you can't argue with me. It says kechatat kasham. Whatever is by a chatas is by an asham. You can't argue with that pasuk. I don't have to bring you who, he, who, he, who. At the end of the day, whatever is by a chatas is by an asham as well. And therefore, just like a chatas needs to be shechted lishma, an asham needs to be shechted lishma as well. That's Rabbi Eliezer's bottom line. And that's what he's going to go with. It has to be done lishma. Just go a few more minutes. Amar Mar. Amar lo Rabbi Yeshua chozrini chalila. Rabbi Yeshua says, I'm going to go in circles and I'm not going to give in to you. Why didn't Rabbi Eliezer come back to him and say, what do you mean you're going to stand here in circles? I have it tzad hashava shebehen. I have the korban pesach. I have the chatas. The tzad hashava shebehen is that both of them get the blood thrown on the mizbeach, whether above or beneath. And at the end of the day, they both need lishma. So tzad hashava shebehen is that asham should need lishma as well. He didn't say that. Why not? Because mishum de'ikah lemifrach malat tzad hashava shebehen shekin yesh behen tzad kares. Why did Rabbi Eliezer at the end of the day have to go and say kechatas? Again, if I ask you at the end of the day, why did Rabbi Eliezer say that an asham needs to be done lishma? Because of two words. The pasuk says kechatas keasham. Whatever is by the chatas is by the asham. Why couldn't he in fact bring his tzad hashava shebehen that he tried to prove? Just like a chatas needs to be lishma, an asham needs to be lishma as well. Can't compare it to a chatas because you throw the blood on top. Yeah, but a pesach needs to be lishma and you throw it on the bottom. So why can't you use a pesach and a chatas together? Because pesach and chatas you can't use to an asham. Why not? Because they have a chumrah that asham doesn't have. What does a chatas come for? Chatas comes for a sin that you would have been. They both have kares in them. Different kareses, but different. The same kares, but for different things. A chatas is brought for a sin that you would have been chayav kares had you done it b'mezid. And korban pesach is chiyuv kares also. Where do you get chiyuv kares for korban pesach? If you just sit down and you choose not to bring the korban pesach, it's the only one of two sins that you get kares for passively doing. Korban pesach and bris milah. If you don't do korban pesach, if you don't get bris milah, it's the only two sins that you get for shev al tasa that you get kares. Every other sin for kares, you have to go ahead. That's another klal to write down. You have to go ahead. You get 3 klals a day, you're good to go. 1 a day, you're good to go. So you can't go ahead and you can't make it tzad hashava shebehen. You can't make a comparison between chatas, pesach to asham because chatas and pesach are more machmir. They both have kares involved. Chatas is brought for a kares sin. Pesach you actually get kares for not doing. Asham, there's no kares involved, therefore you can't bring it tzad hashava shebehen. The only way you can learn asham from chatas is from the pasuk kechatas keasham. Amal Rabbi Yeshua lo. Imamarta bechata shekein dama lemala. Now again, we're analyzing the brisa back. So now the Gemara is going back, as it always does beautifully, and it wants to just understand what everybody was saying. We don't take anything for granted. Again, what was the back and forth? We have to go back to the back and forth thing. Let's go back to the conversation. Rabbi Eliezer says a chatas needs to be lishma and asham needs to be a shma as well. Comes along Rabbi Yoshua and says, how can you compare a chatas to an asham? The chatas, the blood goes on top of the line, and an asham goes underneath the line. You can't compare it. Again, they continue talking, but let's freeze right now. So the Gemara wants to know, why did he use that specific argument? He could have rejected the comparison from chatas to asham in many ways. Why did he choose to reject it by saying you can't compare chatas to asham because chatas, the blood goes above the line? Why didn't he choose to give that argument? He could have said you can't compare chatas to asham because the chatas is more holy because the blood of the chatas goes lifnai v'lifnim, it goes on the inner mizbeach and an asham doesn't. Therefore, don't tell me that a chatas needs to be lishma, therefore an asham needs to be lishma. lishma as well. Chatas is clearly more holy. Bechatos hachitzonis kamina. No, we know that even by a chatas of the outside, which doesn't go lifnai v'lifnim, even that needs to be lishma. From there, you can learn to an asham. Sheim nichnas dama lifnai v'lifnim sula. But even by a chatas that's shechted outside, it still has a chumrah that yes, it doesn't have to be brought lifnai v'lifnim. But if you bring the blood lifnai v'lifnim, you ruin it. As opposed to an asham, if you would go against the rules and take the blood and throw it lifnai v'lifnim, you won't ruin it. Islay Rabbi Lezer af asham. No, Rabbi Lezer holds that if you take an asham, if you take any korban and you throw the blood lifnai v'lifnim, you will ruin it. So we still haven't seen that chatas is more machmir than asham. Shekei mechaperes al chayove krisis. Chatas is more. You should have rejected his statement by saying that a chatas is more machmir because a chatas comes along and it's mechaper for doing something that you would have been chayiv kares, and an asham is not mechaper for chayiv kares. Mechatas is shmias kol. No, there's a chatas that you actually bring for not a chayiv kares. What's that? If you go ahead and you testify falsely, if you swear falsely about not knowing testimony in a monetary case, that's a chatas that you would not have been chayiv kares for, and nevertheless we see that that one needs to be done lishma. Therefore, you can learn to an asham which doesn't have any kares involved also, that needs to be done lishma. Shekain teuna arba matanos. Why didn't he say to him, how can you compare a chatas to an asham? A chatas is more machmer that you need to put the blood on the mizbeach 4 times. Rabbi Yishmael damar kol adam and tuna arba matanos. No, because Rabbi Yoshua holds like Rabbi Yishmael that all korbanos need to be put the dam on the mizbeach 4 times. Al arba karnos. So why didn't he say to him, well, chatas is more machmer because it needs to be put not only 4 times like every other korban, but it needs to be put on all 4 corners of the mizbeach? Says it tomorrow, you're right. That would have been a good argument. But Ula Tamecha, there's a million other things he could have said to him as well. Haika Etzba, there's also a chumrah by chatas. Again, these are klalim. There's a chumrah by chatas, and when you throw the dam, by all other korbanos, you take it straight from the vessel and you throw it on the mizbeach. By chatas, you actually stick in your finger and then throw it on the mizbeach. Haika Keren, by chatas, you have to actually throw it into the actual corner as opposed to just near the corner. Haika Chuda, not only do you throw it on the corner, you throw it to the top of the corner, by the horns of the mizbeach. Ela Chad Mitrei Tlas Tame Nakat. Rather, he chose one of 3 different things. And Einachanami, you're right. He said to him, you can't compare to chatas because chatas get thrown above the line. But he could have said, you can't compare to chatas because you get thrown on all 4 corners. You can't compare to chatas because it gets thrown not only on all 4 corners, but on the actual corner. You can't compare to chatas because it goes ahead and it gets thrown on the horns. He could have used any of those arguments, and Einachanami, it would have been a good argument. Should we stop here? Okay, let's stop here and we'll catch up again tomorrow.